vibrated through his hands and feet. The night was black. He tried to heave in breath to shout for help as he ran, but his throat was too dry and ashy to yell. He jabbed his finger in the back of his tongue to summon up spit. "Is anybody there? Help! Fire!" he shouted. The fire called back in response. A tree behind him sent up a fountain of flames. There was a rumble of thunder. Nothing else replied. A burning branch cracked, spat red, and fell in a cascade of sparks. Fred leaped away, stumbling backward into the dark and smacking his head against something hard. The branch landed exactly where he'd been standing seconds before. He swallowed the bile that rose in his throat and ran faster. Something landed on Fred's chin, and he yelled and ducked, smacking at his face and swerving into a bush. But it was only a raindrop. The rain came suddenly and hard. It turned the soot and sweat on his hands to something like tar, but it began to quench the fire. Fred slowed his run to a jog, then to a stop. Gasping, choking, he looked back the way he had come. The little airplane was in the trees. It was smoking, sending up clouds of white and grey into the night sky. Fred stared around, dizzy and desperate. But he couldn't see or hear a single human, only the fern-like plants growing around his ankles, and the green trees reaching hundreds of feet up into the sky, and the panicked dive and shriek of birds. He shook his head hard, trying to banish the shipwreck roar in his ears. The hair on his arms had singed and smelled of eggs. He put his hand to his forehead. The hair of his eyebrow had charred and part of it came away on his fingers. He wiped his eyebrows on his shirt, noticing for the first time that his hands were covered in blood. Fred looked down at himself. His trouser leg had been ripped all the way up to the pocket, but none of his bones felt broken. There was vicious pain, though, in his back and neck, and it made his arms and legs feel far off and foreign. He picked up a stick and bit down on it. It was what they did during cross-country running at school. It helped, but only an infinitesimal amount. A voice came suddenly from the dark. "Who's there? Get away from us!" Fred spun around, his ears still buzzing. He grabbed a rock from the ground and hurled it in the direction of the voice. He ducked behind a tree and crouched on his haunches, poised to jump or to run. His heart sounded like a one-man band. He tried not to exhale. The voice said, "For God's sake, don't!" It was a girl's voice. Fred looked out from behind the tree. The light of the moon filtered deep green to the forest floor, casting long-fingered shadows against the trees, and he could see only 2 bushes, both of them rustling. "Who is it? Who's there?" The voice came from the second bush. Fred squinted through the dark, feeling the hair rise up on his arms. "Please don't hurt us," said the bush. The accent was not British. It was something softer and definitely a child, not an adult. "Was it you throwing poo?" Fred looked down at the ground. He had snatched up a piece of years-old fossilized animal dung. "Oh," he said. "Yes." He was becoming accustomed to the dark. He could see the shine of eyes peering out from the grey-green gloom of undergrowth. "Are you from the plane? Are you hurt?" "Yes, we're hurt. We fell out of the sky," said one bush, as the other said, "No, not badly." "You can come out," said Fred. "It's only me here." The second bush parted. Fred's heart gave a great leap. Both the girl and her brother were covered in scratches, in burns, and in ash which had mixed with sweat and rain, and made a kind of paste on their faces, but they were alive. He was not alone. "You survived," he said. "Obviously we did," said the first bush, "or we'd be less talkative, wouldn't we?" The blonde girl stepped out into the driving rain. She stared from Fred to the other 2, unsmiling. "I'm Con," she said. "It's short for Constantia, but if you call me that, I'll kill you." Fred glanced at the other.